welcome to ShopTalk CLE, Cleveland Literacy Efforts. I am Shawn Literacy and my co-host, Dr. Lisa McGuthry, and we have a special guest in the studio with us today, Donnie Singleton. He's going to share with us his story about literacy, a little bit about illiteracy, and what he's doing now to make a difference in the city. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
I'm excited. We've been out for a few weeks, the election plus life, so we pushed back. The world won't know because it'll all air accordingly. However, I want to thank you for coming today. I was sharing with Lisa because prior to you we had a gentleman sharing his story about how he learned to read, and then I told her I met you. Then I told her you also had the same last name as him. What a coincidence. But I told her I would love for you to come on this show and just share your story with us. Lisa has her doctorate in education. Although she's a boutique boss here, she covers a lot. She also mentors business owners and entrepreneurs to help them grow their business, to grow their brand. So when you hear them say it's more than a boutique, it really is more than a boutique. Here, as you can see, we're kind of set up today for an event, but the boutique also holds events. So you're having a small little quaint set, you can have that here. But it also houses our books for parents, children, and caregivers can come anytime the boutique is open, and they can have access to free books and free snacks. So that's my spiel. But now I want to spend some time to allow you to share with us your story about reading it. One important part I want you to tie in the end is about you and your brother and how your education brought you guys closer. So welcome. Welcome.
First, thank you both for inviting me. And I watched all y'all shows.
He did his homework.
Yeah, I watched y'all shows.
Awesome.
But my name is Donnie Singleton, and I'm 40 years old, and I can honestly say that in my heart, I feel like I don't belong here today, even sitting with you two. So every day is just a blessing. Before I get to my spiel, just so y'all know, as of right now, I'm still an active reader,
Okay.
and I love it. But anyhow,
Wonderful.
Today is actually.
Thank you for coming, and you are welcome here.
Oh,
And
you
we
are.
created this space for people such as you to share your story. So you're more than welcome here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So today is actually bittersweet, and I'll tell you why today is bittersweet. But to start off with my childhood, my father, just like a lot of kids growing up in poverty, he was nowhere around. He wasn't necessarily in jail, but he was a cheater, so he was never home, and he lived with other women and stuff. And my brother, I don't know what he was going through in his personal life, but I know I was getting picked on. So in the process of me getting picked on, every time I go to my mom, and I'll tell her, oh, I don't like the teacher. And she'll just use somebody else's address, and because she always believed in me, and I'll go to another school. In the end, I went through 4 elementary schools. My brother went through 1, but he's only 3 years older than me. And I noticed we was all right, but we didn't kick it. And then in junior high, he went to Empire. He went to 1 school. Me, for 7th, I went to a school, and for 8th, I went to another school. And in fact, 8th is my actual, at the time, it was my highest grade completed, because when I got to 9th grade, I went to 4 high schools in Cleveland. I also went to Job Corps. I signed out, went to Job Corps, and then I got kicked out. Then I went to Max Hayes Adult School, took the GED, and I failed. So by this time, my brother did 4 years at 1 high school. And we have the same mother and father. And back then, it never dawned on me, like, how is it this is what's going on? So I just used to think something was wrong with him, not realizing that I was illiterate, because the reason today is bittersweet, because on November 6, 1998, I was 18 years old. All I had was an 8th grade education. I'm hanging with a 15-year-old, to make it so bad, in Cleveland. And one day, I lied to my mom, told her I was going to the movies. He lied to his grandma and said he was going with me to the movies. And we actually went and got some liquor. And on this specific night, actually, in 1998, we committed a crime.
Wow.
And it was a 22-year-old young man, minding his own business. And I'm not going to point finger on how it initiated, but I could have stopped it, and I didn't. Instead, I participated. And in the end, he died from a deadly fight.
Wow.
And me not realizing that, A, I'm illiterate. At the time, I'm making justification. I'm saying, well, I wasn't going to run, leave the guys. I was just real stupid, not understanding things. In the end, I was sentenced at 18 years old, 8th grade education. I was sentenced to life in prison.
Wow.
So I get to prison, not knowing that I actually have potential. So my journey with books actually, and by this time my brother, he actually went, at 18 though, he went to the military in order to utilize the school and to further his career of what he had plans on doing. So me, on the other end, I'm in prison. So I get in some trouble and I get sent to this prison called Lebanon. I'm still 18, I haven't even turned 19. And I remember I seen a couple fights or whatever. And then I just remember that my attitude and my behavior was so screwed up that it dictated my actions. So if someone bumped me, I felt like I had something to prove because my attitude was messed up. And it came to a point where in my head I was thinking like, I got life, probably ain't gonna go home, but I'll never forget this thought that I had, because I'm all the way down there in Lebanon. And back then I was so illiterate, when they sent me to Lebanon, when I first called my mom, because it's actually a city, Lebanon, Ohio. When I first called my mom, I was crying, and I'm like, Mom, they sent me to another country. So she was like, where? And I was like, I'm in Lebanon. And I just remember she was like, how am I gonna get there? And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, I'm looking at these.
It's not funny, but
No, yeah.
And then, I hadn't been exposed to people, so I'm sitting next to a Muslim, and I remember I was like, Ma, it's a Muslim next to me. I'm telling you, I'm in Lebanon, I'm in the Middle East. And she was like, but that just show you where my brain was at. It was daylight saving time, so when we left, it was like now, it was dark. Got there, it was light, then it was dark. I thought 2 days went by, and I'm telling my mom, like, Mom, 2 days went by. Well, I'm telling you, we went to another country. But me not realizing, I just don't know nothing. But anyhow, I remember I had this thought, because I had got sentenced to life, and everybody was always talking about like, man, people it's hard, you don't see too many people go home with a life sentence. And I remember I was like, well, I'm about to just get smarter. And I was like, if I'm gonna get smarter, and if I can become eligible for something, I figure not necessarily go home. I figure if I can get eligible for something, I want to be eligible for it.
Right.
Did you have a support system, would you say? Why?
I had my mom,
Okay.
she was a trooper,
Okay.
like all the way, and my auntie. And my auntie, she was such a blessing behind, shout out to Auntie Marcia, because she'll watch it. Let me tell you, when I was in the county, not realizing I don't know anything, she would ask me, she would always send me, she would give me anything, but she would always say, hey, I would prefer to see you a book. This is a fact.
Wow.
So what she will always do is continuously send me books. And as I would try to read them, but I couldn't get into them. And then I remember she was trying to up my literacy. And this came to pass years later. She started telling me to write my thoughts on paper.
Wow.
So I didn't realize when I was writing, I was misspelling so much stuff. So what she'll do, I'll send a letter to her, she'll type it out, put it on some fancy paper, but she would not correct any of my spelling.
Wow.
I never understood it at the time. And I still have these poems to this day. And she would send them back to me, so I would be so happy, and I would show people, I would like, look, this is what I wrote. Because you see the nice little borders and stuff, but I'm misspelling stuff. Like if I'm trying to say the word sail as I'm in a sail. Okay.
We're going to take a small break. When we come back from break, Mr. Singleton is going to finish up his story. Stay tuned.
They would always say, go ask me. And one of the best things is once I really got into psychology, that's the class that people are struggling on. So it'd be like different questions. And I was just so surprised. And any kind of thing dealing with American history before the Civil War, where people struggle, it's just like I just got super pumped. And I was just like, I can do this. And it started giving me confidence. And it was weird though, because my family, I don't know I don't know what I was telling them, but I just felt like I was on this journey, and the only person I had to hug myself because I didn't think anyone really cared. But I just remember, I still don't have an associate's degree, but I'm going to school still. And I remember I got a parole hearing, and I guess everything I was doing wasn't enough. Boom, they gave me 3 more years. So I was like, all right. So throughout that 3 years, and that's when I was like, all right, because I was gonna just tap out. And between this time, like I told you before the show, I started mentoring young people. I had got this involved in a lot of organizations, and I would read a book and then give them a spiel. Oh, and also with my reading, I wanted to make up for lost times, so I would go to people who was educated, that was incarcerated, and I would be like, hey, did you graduate from high school? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, what was the first book report you ever did? And they'd be like, I think it was over a book called Mice and Men, Monster Men, I can't remember. And I would just listen to them, and I'd go to somebody else, like, you never heard of a book called, and then what happened, I would piece together for people who couldn't remember the specifics of their first book, and I actually would go back and read Raps of Grapes. I would just read all these different childhood books that a lot of people who grew up in other places that they used to read. So I actually started making my way backwards, reading books so I can know the stuff that other people knew. And but anyway, I had got my 3 years at the parole board. That window was still open for me, and then that's when I was like, you know what? I told my mom. My mom was like so hurt that because she was hoping, you know, her baby, she was hoping I had a chance, but I knew the odds was against it. And that's when I just focused in these books and just studied and read and studied and read and studied. And then 2017, I was actually a part of the first group that actually got associate's degree, and I was comfortable with it, but because they didn't say nothing about a bachelor's, but then they made the criteria even more slimmer because they took degrees out of prison over 30 years ago or something because of the financial thing and stuff. But they made it so slim that you have to be really, really qualified to really get in there. And just so happened, with all of that studying, with the GPA and so much stuff going on, I made the cut. And when I made the cut, that's when it hit me, and I was like, dang, I gotta see the parole board again in 2019, it's 2017. So I was like, if I could spend the next 2 years and knock out all these classes, I was like, I'll have another degree, and I was like, they gotta let me go home. They gotta let me go home. That's all I kept thinking. And I was like a man possessed. I would just do schoolwork. I always had books all day. I pretty much just stopped doing a lot of stuff I used to do as far as playing sports and a lot of stuff. And then proudest moment, not only did I get the bachelor's degree, they let me be the person who do the whole speech on behalf of the whole graduating class. And then, but here's the part that I was super pumped about. My parole hearing is coming, so they was like, you can have some family members represent you. So I was reading something, because reading, that's why you have to read. And I read something, and they said your family can bring stuff to represent you at the parole board. And most people, they just come and say, hey, I want my son out for more. And I said, hey, Mom. She's like, yeah. I say, take my degrees. And I wasn't sure if she understood the significance of them. Of the parole board probably never really seen this. And I was like, take them, and you just gotta like kill it. You just gotta like go in real hard on it. And then she told me the story about how the conversation was going with the parole board. I wasn't there at the time. And next thing you know, she was like, well, let me see this. You know, the degrees in the book. She said, well, what about this right here? And she opened it up, and then they looked at it. And they was like, oh, okay, you got an associate's degree. And then while it was still there open, she had the bag, and she was like, well, what about this? And she pulled out the other one, man. Next thing you know, the whole conversation changed, man. And that's when she was telling me, she was like, Donnie, you might have a shot at this.
Wow.
And then because of reading, I got locked up, incarcerated before internet, so I knew nothing about computers. I started reading and stuff just about computers. And then I had positioned myself to get on a computer. And
Mr. Singleton, can we invite you back?
yeah.
We want to hear the end of this story.
Yeah.
Can we invite him back?
Absolutely. This
Okay, we want to have you back. Okay.
Y'all getting super pumped.
I know.
This is amazing.
Cleveland literacy efforts. One of the things here in Cuyahoga County, 66% of Clevelanders function illiterate, and by functioning illiterate, they can't fill out a bus. They can't read the bus application, fill out a rental application, or a job application. ShopTalk CLE is going to have these conversations about illiteracy in Cleveland, what we can do to make a difference, what we are doing to make a difference. So follow Literacy in the Hood, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. How can someone find you, Mr. Singer's social media?
I guess on Facebook.
Donnie Singleton. And how can someone find you?
Our Favorite Things Boutique, Our Favorite Things CLE, and www.ourfavoritethings.boutique.com.
Thank you. Stay tuned. See you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.